Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Sorry, there was a little mess up with the music, but that will be sorted out at the next episode. Basically, StreamYard allows me to upload my own music to the intro section, and I kind of messed it up a little bit. I think I'm going to figure it out. I only found out about it like 2 minutes ago, so I was experimenting, and this is what happened. But hey, welcome to this episode. This is a YouTube live stream channel which comes live Monday to Friday at 10 p.m. Today is Thursday, July 7th of 2022, and we are live. And you are probably in the chat right now, and you are asking questions or making comments. But it is also possible that you're listening to this at a later point of time on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Ghana.com, JioSavan, etc., or wherever else you listen to audio. If you are doing that, please share the podcast episode with people you know and ask them to subscribe or follow or leave a rating or a review wherever possible, because that is how podcasts grow. If you are not listening at a later point in time and you're actually in the present with me right now, hello. Today's topic is world building, but not just world building from a fiction point of view. I generally wanted to talk about how world building seems to be an escape. There are benign forms of world building and there are toxic forms of world building. So I wanted to start by talking about the toxic sort of world building, of which the most common example is religious world building, where human beings make up a religion, a set of stories, and then they fall into it because the world that they have built for these characters to exist, they start imagining that they also belong to this world. Which is why you will find a lot of people calling themselves descendants of gods. Quite literally. There are people in India who think that their ancestors were gods. There are people who claim to be following in the footsteps of certain gurus, prophets, messiahs, sons of gods, etc. This is all world building. It's basically storytelling. The only factor, as I've said so many times before, is that religions are stories that are so old that we have forgotten that they are stories. And world building also makes its presence felt in fiction, obviously, because you will find writers creating a fictional world and then fans going overboard with it and imagining things in it so detailed that they start accusing the writer of not doing the world very a lot of justice. And this is because human beings at the end of the day are quite vulnerable before stories. When we listen to a story, we want to know how it ends. And if we listen to a story for long enough, then we become involved with it quite intimately. We become involved with it so intimately that we start imagining that the characters are persons known to us and their lives affect us. We laugh and cry whenever things happen to them, and we react to the events in the story as if they are events in real life. If you have ever seen a reaction video where people are crying at certain things happening in a story, if you have ever seen people cosplaying at Comic Con as a certain character, if you have ever seen people having quarrels online about my character is better than your character, like who would win, Captain America or Batman, that sort of thing. If you have ever seen that, you have essentially you have essentially seen religion happening at a very larval stage. When you see religious people dress up in a certain way and say that to not be respected as that character that they dress up as is to hurt their religious sentiments, you're looking at basically the same thing. It's cosplay dating back to a few thousand years. That is all. And of course, if any of you are writers, then you can also raise questions about world building in general, because that's what we kind of talk about in this episode. So let me look at the chat. Metal Man says, "Yo, fiction stuff. My favorite kind of emo content. I was going to sleep early, then I saw the topic, and I've decided to stay awake now." Oh, good. I hope you're not disappointed by the fact that this is not entirely fiction stuff. If you want to talk about your fiction stuff, you're most welcome to do so. But as I said, I'm not only talking about world building in the fiction sense. I'm also talking about it in the social sense. Sahil says, "Hey Vimo, have you heard of Kolkata couple's gay wedding? They went viral on Instagram. Really, India is going forward in terms of thinking, especially the urban population. I wish that were true, my friend. The news that you are talking about is obviously good news. I wish more of it happened. But these are drops in the ocean, and the ocean is mostly not clean water right now. But yeah, every little bit helps. Great. My congratulations to both of them." to the couple, that is. Yashwant, hello. Kaushal, hello. Kavan, hello. Messi, hello. Jack says, hi, Vimo. Totally. Today, coincidentally, I've got into some Tamilian news channel where they were showing the new news of UP incident. A Muslim man wrapped meat in paper with picture of God. Yeah, that is from yesterday, I believe. He's been arrested for apparently one of the charges against him is attempt to murder. Go figure. Jack says, I was shocked by Tamilian reaction. They were talking about the demolition of that person's house. What do you think? Is Tamilian also heading to Hindutva? I don't know what that channel said. I only have your word for it. I have never seen that Tamilian channel and therefore cannot comment on it. However, anyone who says that that person's house should be demolished is clearly pandering to the lowest common denominator. The kind of hateful bigotry that we see on the streets today, the gunda level thinking, that's what this seems to be. Harshraj Singh Rathod says, hello, Vimo. Hi, Harsh. Nandini says, did you watch Thor Love and Thunder? It was a good movie with a lot of jokes. No, I have not seen it. Please don't spoil movies here. And I will see it when it becomes available online. Diamond Amar says, what is your view on Goddess Kali film poster controversy? Should there be creative freedom on depicting religious deities or gods? Please elaborate. Diamond Amar, I talked about this yesterday. Please watch yesterday's episode. Kavish, hello. Samarth is here. Hi, Samarth. Thank you for being a member. He says, didn't like Love and Thunder much. I think something is wrong with Phase 4. MCU TV shows are doing much better than movies. Whatever works. Maybe the TV shows are the new thing that will take the MCU forward. But I don't know. What other movies are there in the MCU Phase 4? Isn't this kind of the first one? Oh, sorry, the Spider Man movies. Ah, those were not bad. Those were quite good. I like them. Avarabilla says villain of Thor 4, Gore, is mistakenly understood as atheist while he is anti-theist. Okay. Again, please don't spoil the movie here because I have not seen it. Anarchist atheist says, do you think humans have inbuilt instinct for religion? Does spirituality hold evolutionary significance? Anarchist atheist, we have already talked about this in the last episode. Please refer to the part that has hyperactive agent detection in it. Dipankar says, hi Vimo, Valkyrie is bisexual. In one conversation, someone mentioned about her girlfriend. Yes, someone mentioned this yesterday also. Marvel has a lot of BIPOC characters, and that is a great thing. I believe the sexual orientation of America Chavez was also mentioned, and also someone else someone else. I don't remember, but yeah, there is a lot of BIPOC representation. हमारा बिल्ला says अब तो पूरी स्क्रिप्ट कॉपी पेस्ट करने वाला हूँ इधर अरे यार मत करो प्लीज see the point is you're not just spoiling it for me, you're spoiling it for everyone else who's also in the chat. So don't spoil movies in public places. That should be normal by now. It's the year 2022. If people don't get into the habit of respecting other people's wishes, as far as like I don't want to know about the story because I've not read it yet, please respect that. Manmat says, this morning I watched a movie, Color Photo, a good movie on the existing caste system. Has anyone watched? What is your view? I have not seen it, Manmat. Diamond Amar says, please do a special segment or live stream on various logical fallacies, taking examples from usual Indian political debates. That is a good idea. I will try to do this. By the way, this either tomorrow or day after on my main channel, I'm going to post a rebuttal of the watchmaker argument. So if you have not subscribed there, you can. The channel is at youtube.com/Vimo. This is where I'll be publishing standalone videos. This channel is just the live streams, and this other channel, youtube.com/Vimo, is where I post videos. And I have prepared a video debunking the watchmaker argument, and I will be publishing it there. Samarth says the other movies are Far From Home, No Way Home, Multiverse of Madness, Eternals, Love and Thunder. Far From Home was good, No Way Home was good, Multiverse of Madness was also good, Eternals was okay, I guess. Love and Thunder I have not seen, so I guess it's okay. R79 says America Chavez was raised by two moms. Yes, she was. Awara Billah says, अरे नहीं सर ऐसे नहीं जस्ट किडिंग है सीनियर से सर क्या वेदों को जेंद अवस्था से कॉपी किया गया है अगर किया गया है तो ये सब कब हुआ होगा सीनियर आई डोंट नो you should talk to someone who is a scholar on Zen Avesta. I have heard of what the Zen Avesta is, but I don't know what is in them. इट इज़ कॉमन फॉर रिलीजियस टेक्स्ट ऑफ एंशिएंट टाइम्स टू हैव अ लॉट ऑफ कॉमन एलिमेंट्स। आजकल जो मॉडर्न लोग हैं मतलब हमारे युग के जो धार्मिक लोग हैं, उनको ये आदत है क्लेम करने की हमारा धर्म बहुत ओरिजिनल है, सब कुछ यहीं से लिया गया है। बट बैक इन द डे पीपल डिडंट गिव अ फ्लाइंग डक अबाउट these things. If someone was writing a spiritual book and they went and found some spiritual gyan in some other country, they will happily include it. Yeah, this superiority claiming thing is a modern thing where people have where people have such small dicks that they have to compare the sizes of their religious books and their ancientness in order to feel good about themselves. खुद जिंदगी में कुछ नहीं किया होगा, मेरा धर्म बहुत एंशियंट है, सब कुछ यहाँ से लिया गया है। ये बहुत कॉमन है मॉडर्न टाइम्स में। अगर ज़ैन अवस्था और वेदों में कुछ कॉमन मिलता भी है, इट विल प्रोबेबली बी बिकॉज़ पीपल वर टॉकिंग टू ईच अदर, people were traveling all over the world, people are talking to each other, and knowledge got passed on. This is why you find commonalities in stories sometimes. Like folk tales of India, there'll be a folk tale told all over India in villages, and then you'll find a folk tale of a very similar nature somewhere in Indonesia or Java or even Greece. These things happen. इन प्राचीन समय में लोग कहानियों का व्यापार करते थे, लोग ट्रैवल करते थे मर्चेंट्स के रूप में, और साथ ही साथ किताबें ले जाते थे, एक दूसरे से बात करते थे, पोर्ट पर सेलर से बात करते थे, कहानियाँ ट्रांसफ़र हो जाती हैं। दैट इज़ द सोर्स ऑफ रिलीजियस द स्प्रेड ऑफ रिलीजन्स, दे स्प्रेड थ्रू स्टोरीज़। Um, Samad says Multiverse of Madness was not good. What? Why? I liked it. What did you not like about it? Avara Billa says, I feel like Endgame was so good that now any movie which is below that level is not meeting expectations, as हम सारी movies को Endgame level चाहते हैं. I don't think, no, I don't think that is the case, because if that, like, listen, only in the Marvel continuity, you're saying there is a movie which was so good that other Marvel movies are going to get compared to it. That I think is true. But I don't think that will take away the enjoyment from other movies. I think Spider-Man, जो 3 Spider-Man का जुगाड़ किया था उन्होंने इस लास्ट पिक्चर में, that was a very innovative thing. And I think that the last scenes where all three of them in the frame together was such an emotional moment for people who are old like me and who, like, मैं कॉलेज में था जब पहली स्पाइडरमैन फिल्म आई थी टोबी मैगवायर के साथ, एंड आई सॉ इट अलोन, नो सॉरी, I saw Superman alone by myself. I saw Tobey Maguire वाला Spider-Man with a couple of friends who had just met, like new college, नए दोस्त वैसे वाला. So I have fond memories with it. And to see Tobey Maguire reprise that role means a lot. So I don't think people are comparing, like, you know, कुछ पिक्चर्स को देख के डिसअपॉइंट हो जाना नॉर्मल है, but the disappointment does not last. Kavan says, have you ever had an idea that you thought was brilliant, but a few days later you find out that a series movie has already been made about it? Yes, it happens all the time to everyone, which is why whenever you have an idea, you should quickly write it down. And if later on you want to develop it, you should do a little bit of research before developing it. क्योंकि a lot of people who don't write are often under the impression that मेरे पास जो idea है इतना mind blowing है ना, but turns out ideas are fairly common and you will find reflections of your ideas somewhere else. मैं जब छोटा था मेरे पास एक, like, I had this theory कि ideas are conscious beings and they come into your brain, and if you don't give them respect they go away and start living in someone else's brain. So a story idea will come to me and I will not write it, and some days later I'll be in a bookshop and I'll find a book with that exact same idea. This happens all the time, it's quite common. So yeah. Sumana says सब कुछ वेदों से आया है विमो. Okay. Diamond Amber says you can talk about some common logical fallacies now for a minute or two. People need to be educated about these fallacies using local context. Thanks. Diamond, see, the thing about a live stream is that it is not an educational medium, it is a conversational medium. If people want to learn about logical fallacies, they can simply type basic logical fallacies into YouTube and they will find videos about it. लॉजिकल फैलेसीज के बारे में नॉलेज इंटरनेट पे बहुत है. Those who want to act logically will act logically. Those who don't want to will ignore all that gyan. I don't need to make videos about, I don't need to do a live stream about logical fallacies because that information is out there. What is the point of me just repeating it? Harsh says the Guardian calls Boris Johnson a fraud, and here in India, Zubair is being arrested for just a faking tweet. Yeah. उधर उधर के कंजर्वेटिव्स को थोड़ी शर्म आ गई इसलिए बोरिस जॉनसन ने नौकरी छोड़ दी. हमारे यहाँ शर्म का कॉन्सेप्ट तो है ही नहीं. कोई झूठा बोलेगा तो और ज़्यादा झूठ बोलेंगे. Dear XYZ says, hey Vimo, you should also start a weekly dedicated stream as Haris Ghalib tried to do Ilhad ka tika vaccine of atheism. I do live streams 5 days a week. और क्या करूँ? Are you saying कि one of these days we should just talk about atheism? Because that we can do. But my point is that we talk about atheism in almost every single episode. Today also the goal was to talk about world building, but the conversation is going elsewhere. So I'm not actually sure about whether I should give the live stream a topic, or if I should keep all the live stream is freestyle, so that topic is decided by the people who come and we talk about whatever is in the news that day. So I'm not sure, which is why what I do is I start an episode with a certain intention, and after the episode ends I usually go back and edit the headline and the thumbnail if the topic is vastly different from what I intended. And that's going to happen on a live stream. Live streams cannot be you know आज हम इस टॉपिक पे बात करेंगे और कोई कुछ और नहीं पूछेगा, वैसे होगा नहीं. So AD says, I'm a 90s kid. When we were teenagers, we argued who's better, batsman, Tendulkar or Dravid, better actor, Amir or Shah Rukh. Now everyone is involved in politics or religion. Well, those decisions were also like I'm also a 90s kid, and I remember not being interested in cricket at all. Tendulkar और द्रविड़ के बारे में debates होती होंगी, but मैंने नहीं की. But आमिर शाहरुख के बारे में किया है. And I also remember that when Hrithik Roshan first came on the scene, Shiv Sena's mouthpiece wrote an article about finally a Hindu hero. That's so disgusting. Manmat Sahu says, Ved mein rakha kya hai? The day I read unabridged English translation of Rigved, I wanted to slumber right after a few minutes, mundane and useless. Luca says, Hi Vimo, what are your thoughts on the today's topic? Can art be toxic? Someone world building should have the freedom to make the world as they choose to, no? Luca, I'm not talking about that. Yeah, everyone should have a freedom to create the worlds they do. But often we find that world building is also rhetorical, world building is also political. Because think about this category of people who are anti feminists. What is their world building? The stories that they are telling have to do with a world where feminists are oppressing them. And that is not the case. It's just pure fantasy. They are being questioned, they are being outraged against because they are anti women. But their fantasy, their personal fantasy, which they have spread far, and the story is actually subscribed to by many people, that's also world building. There is Hindutva world building where Hindu khatre mein hai. But that's not reality, it's fantasy. But that fantasy has taken over the imagination of a lot of people. When I say world building, I'm not only talking about fiction. By the way, fiction में भी काफी toxic world building हो सकती है. There was this uh, I don't know where I read this. There was this story anecdote about a boy who sent to publishers his idea for a novel, and the idea was about a boy who goes to Egypt, finds a secret seal in a pyramid, and the secret seal reveals to him that he's the chosen one, and that the sun god Ra wanted white people to rule the world, and he's the champion who's going to make it happen. The publishers of course rejected it, but फिक्शन में वर्ल्ड बिल्डिंग के थ्रू काफ़ी कुछ होता है. देयर आर फैंटेसी नॉवेल्स विथ racism in them. There are science fiction novels with homophobia in them. So yeah, world building is something that is potentially very powerful, but that power is used both for good and for bad. Deepika says Iron Man movies and Civil War and Endgame, they were the best ones. I really miss Tony Stark. My favorite Marvel movie to this day was probably Winter Soldier. Diamond Amar says, please share your views on Indian Asian parenting versus Western parenting, like cons and pros. I'm not an expert on parenting, sir, nor am I an expert on marriage. I don't know why people keep asking me about marriage and children and stuff. You should talk to people who have qualifications, people who are family counselors or marriage counselors and stuff. इस लाइव स्ट्रीम के बारे में एक चीज़ क्लियर कर दूं. आई एम नेवर गोइंग टू pretend to know things that I don't. There are plenty of people on India YouTube doing that already. I am not about to add to that. Primarily, this live stream is about atheism and about a few other things about which I know. If I don't know something, I will maybe do research and make a video, but if I don't, then I won't. So, parenting, Indian, Asian, marriage related stuff, don't ask it here because I'm not an expert on those matters. Avara Billa says, but man, just see Multiverse of Madness. It ruined Wanda and all the character arc Wanda made. That, like, literally, Sam Raimi, director of Multiverse, hasn't seen WandaVision. I don't feel they did the best. They did kind of establish this. At the end of WandaVision, Wanda is seen going through the Darkhold and she's hearing voices of her children. So it was a logical leap from there to here. Sure, she had a moment and then she came out of it, but it is conceivable that she was still under the impression that she was being reasonable. WandaVision established that she really wanted her children, and this movie was powered by that need. I don't see a huge discrepancy here. Zia says, world building on this side of the border is many people wanting to transform Pakistan into an Arabia inspired society functioning solely on the principles set by Sharia. Yeah, all kinds of toxic world building happens. And we have to realize that the human way of life, human civilization, if fiction, if imagination is a sea, human way of life is 90% existing underwater, under that water. Only a little bit is sticking out. That is scientific, rational, and all that. But we exist inside imagination. Stories are directly imagination, but that does not mean that other systems are not based on imagination. A lot of political systems are based on imagination. They were created by human beings, but we have chosen to work on them. The idea of money is imaginary. It's a piece of paper on which someone has given a promise, but we believe that it is worth goods. And because we believe, it works. So we exercise our imagination to make these things work. We also exercise our imagination to make a lot of bad things work. Bad social systems, for example, are also products of the human imagination. That is toxic world building. Jasmine is here. Favorite music artist album songs in Hindi or English, top three. I don't really have that sort of a list. By the way, Jasmine, I wanted to thank you for like what Jasmine did was that in the last episode, she went to the comments and made a topic list with timestamps, which means that anyone who wishes to go to any part of the video can look at her comment and click on the timestamp and go there. I would encourage people to do this because I'm not adding timestamps to the video bottom. If you have parts of the video that you want people to watch, leave a comment with the timestamps that you want them to go to, and I will, if I find something that is accurate, I will pin it. Someone says, yes, No Way Home was good, quite nostalgic as well, but unfortunately I didn't find the script of Multiverse of Madness good, and there is lack of character development. It seems as if it is rushing through the story. It did have a lot to cover, no? Like it was about the multiverse. They had to establish a lot of things. Yes, it was not a typical Marvel movie because it was more geared towards horror, but it was good. It was good. I didn't find anything hugely problematic in it. Yeah, it was a bit long though. Someone says, yeah, also missed Shang-Chi in Phase 4 movie list. About, yeah, Shang-Chi. I don't know about Shang-Chi. I enjoyed it, but I don't think even Shang-Chi is. I think Shang-Chi sequel is going to be better. Let's just put it that way. Uh, Ritu says, hey Vimo, can you do live streams with someone like Raw and Real or Trifecta of Reality? I don't even know who these people are. Who are these people? Can you give me some, like, I'll Google them, but I don't know who they are. Jashmin says, Vimo, make one comprehensive rebuttal video every month. I will try, Jashmin. That is the idea. Because that's the only kind of video that seems to work on the other channel. Ritu says, Multiverse of Madness was amazing. The horror element was amazing. Yeah. Dhirubhai says, hey Vimo, did you hear about News Laundry's new show with Kunal Kamara and Sanjay Rajara called Ye Bhi Theek Hai? Seems pretty interesting. I think it's a podcast. Two comedians talking for 1 hour is always interesting. But I have not seen the first episode. I believe it is out. I will watch it. Human is social animal says an artist can make anything by his her thought, and artist is better than any religious person, provided the artist does not misuse it. There are artists who make propaganda films, remember? And the religion of Scientology was created by a writer, a science fiction writer, in fact. So we should never put artists on a pedestal. We should also not treat them like shit. We should judge people by their actions. Kavish Ahmed says about world building in fiction. I really like Song of Ice and Fire books. The world is quite large and detailed. A great point I see is different areas have legends which are similar to each other. Yes. George R. R. Martin kind of gets carried away with the world building, and maybe that is why the books take so long. But the world building is quite exquisite. By the way, there is a funny story about when he submitted the book. He put a map in the front part, right? So this is Winterfell, this is King's Landing, and all that. And the publisher said, Ki, so between these places, there is a lot of blank space. Can you put that in? And he said, are you going to pay me for it? And they said, yes, of course. And he said, okay. So he just made up stuff and put it inside. यहाँ पे ये नदी है, यहाँ पे there is this place and all that. And later on, that map came in handy because he could set more events in those places. So fun stuff. I like making maps. Have I shown you the map of? Let me find my map of. अरे कहाँ गया? Um, nope. I think I don't have it here. ये इंटरनेट एक्सप्लोरर क्यों खोला? So I'm writing a story called Yugantar. There is a map of the place. I'll try to find it in. I'll try to find it and show it to you. Ah, it is here. Found it. Found it. Found it. Just showing you. कहाँ गया? Here it is. Wait. I'll just put it on screen. There. Can you see it? So this is the map of Yugantar. Let me zoom in a bit so you can see it more clearly. So this is the map. This here in this forest area in the middle is called Van. It's the area where the Vanar kingdoms live. And on the north part there is the icy part. There is all that is also Vanar area, but a different breed of Vanars live there. They're very furry. This part, this arc right under Van is called the Rakshas Dominion. The Rakshas Dominion is ruled by Rakshasas, of course. And below that, I don't know if you can see it. Below that here is Dev Bhumi. It's a very small part, extremely urbanized, but the gods live here. And this story is something that I've been writing for quite some time. If you want, you can actually listen to the first few episodes, but I would recommend don't anymore because I'm going to write it down and make it into a novel or something. And when I do, you can look at it. I have done a fair bit of world building for this also. I think I've spoken about this in the past, but the story is called Yugantar, and this map, as you can see, is the world of Yugantar. The ships of the gods fly above the water. These are the Rakshasa ships. There is Dan here, which is the kingdom of Danavs, and here you will see a crater, which has a long history. There is a big tree here called Mool, which is a sacred place for the Vanars, and this mountain in the middle here is called Kush, and this part, the scorched island to the right, is actually a place where the Rakshasas came from long ago. And you've seen that nobody can live here, and there is a land bridge that is now submerged. And this is the first place they settled. And a lot of history is there. So, yeah, that was my map of Yugantar. Uh, Anarchist atheist says definition of delusion in forensic science books exclude religion as delusion as there is no psychosis. Otherwise, it is perfect for religions. No, I don't think we should compare religion to mental health matters because that devalues the kind of compassion we should have for people with mental health issues. There are like Matt Dillahunty actually complained about this some time ago. He said that there are entire Facebook pages titled "Religion is a disease." Religion is a mental disease, which is atrocious, an atrocious thing to say. Like, what are we saying? We are saying that religious people who are bigoted are actually are the same as people who have a disability of sorts or a mental condition of sorts, because that is not compassion. That is not uh, reaching out with empathy to people who need help. We should, I think, atheists need to stop saying religion is a mental disease. It's a very bad thing to say. Let us not do it. But yeah, uh, Richard Dawkins, when he wrote The God Delusion, was reached out to by some people, and they said that you should not use the word delusion, you should call it relusion or something, because delusion is an actual diagnosed mental condition. And he said, no, I think I'm going to stick to delusion. So he stuck to delusion. Someone else says, which movie is more toxic? Kuch Kuch Hota Hai or DDLJ? 90s kids answer. I don't even remember what happened in these movies. Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. DDLJ. I think DDLJ. Actually, it's hard to say. But then again, Dear XYZ said, do you think increase in religious extremism, hatred in India is by design, a kind of info war? Yes. But see, here's the thing. There is a sword and there is a rose. Both are on the table. They're not hurting anyone. If someone picks up the sword, they can hurt someone. But if someone picks up the rose, they can't hurt someone. The reason religious hatred is happening in India is because religious hatred was already latent in Indian society. Some people just picked it up and are using it. If we were not a society based on religious discrimination, then they would not have been able to use it this way. So yeah, it is being used, but there was something to use. If it had not been there, we would not be here. So the primary problem is the presence of the sword itself. If you take the sword away, then nobody can lift it, right? Which is why I say, I keep telling people, like, there's this in the episode about liberal delusions, sorry, liberal hypocrisy. Delusion यहाँ कैसे आ गया? Liberal hypocrisy, I pointed out that uh, there is a tendency among India's urban liberals to think that once the BJP goes, सब ठीक हो जाएगा. Because they're under the impression that 2014 से पहले सब अच्छा था, कास्टिज्म नहीं था, रिलीजियस डिस्क्रिमिनेशन नहीं था, इस्लामोफोबिया नहीं था, कुछ भी नहीं था. हमने इन प्रॉब्लम्स को हमारी सोसाइटी में फेस्टर करने दिया, तभी तो आज हम इस जगह पे पहुंचे हैं. अगर सोसाइटी में ये प्रॉब्लम्स शुरू से नहीं होती, तो कोई मिसयूज कैसे कर रहा होता इस चीज का? We need to make society our primary focus and politics our secondary focus, which is why I keep talking about society itself. Political events keep happening. They will happen, they will not happen, they will happen again. But society को fix नहीं करेंगे, तब तक कुछ जाएगा, आएगा जाएगा नहीं. Diamond Amar is obsessed with logical fallacies today. Diamond, off the top of my head, I can't do this. Can you provide some Indian politics discourse examples of strawman fallacy? I'm sure I can. If I looked at something, I could say that this is a product of strawman fallacy, but I can't, off the top of my head, create an encyclopedia of logical fallacies. Jashmin says Brandon Sanderson is often accused of propagating Mormonism in his stories. Probably. I've never heard of this, but if you say so. Samad says, I think both are equally toxic, but then Kuch Kuch Hota is worse because it came out 4 years after DDLJ with the same level of toxicity. So there is an assumption here. Assumption is that with time, things become more progressive, which is not true, I think. Because I am a 90s kid and I can tell you there are clearly areas in urban society. Of course, India has been largely religiously discriminatory and casteist, etc. But in urban society, there was shame about saying certain things, which is not there anymore. So time and the passage of time and coming of the future is no guarantee of progressive values. Avara Billa says, watched Orwell 2 episode. I feel the idea is just amazing, but marriage issues in it is kind of weird. I feel it was only science oriented. What? Marriage issues in it. Orwell 2 episodes. I don't even remember what was happening in the second episode. His ex-wife joining as the first officer. Okay. It was initially designed as a comedy, but now it is not so much a comedy. It's more like a serious Star Trek thing. Still quite funny, but the focus has shifted. Avara Billa says, first season, obviously, episode 1 and 2. While I was enjoying how we humans were interacting with other species, marriage issue ruined it for me. No, why? It's funny. Orwell is at the end of the day about character growth. So if the marriage, you'll find how it grows. It'll change a lot. Luca says, how can one go about creating a balanced, non-toxic world for a fictional work? Things like Bechdel test? Yeah, Bechdel test could be one of them. And there are something that someone mentioned yesterday was about sensitivity readers. If you are writing a story where there are races and other characters from other communities than you, and you feel that you might not be doing justice to their representation, you can hire someone like a sensitivity reader to go through it and advise you about what things are acceptable and what are probably going to cross a line. Sumana says, it's so sad when I see ABCD millennials praising all 90s SRK movies. Yeah, so I think NRI India is kind of stuck in the DDLJ phase. Because those are the movies that were new when these people first went to America. Their parents first went to America. Now these kids are growing up and they keep hearing about those movies from their parents. That is why Shah Rukh Khan has, like these movies by Shah Rukh Khan, have a little bit of currency. You'll find mention of them even in Miss Marvel. Diamond Hammer says, some rights are subject to public morality. Don't you think it's a very vague and can be exploited by politicians to curb civil liberties? Public morality say to sati or dahej be legal? Yeah, I agree with you. Public morality, like, why public morality? Anything that is vaguely such a vague term and is ambiguous, and you cannot say what exactly is meant. Like, imagine uh, objectionable content. What does that even mean? If I make a video about atheism, some religious person will find it objectionable. What does objectionable even mean? I think we should have clearer definitions of things, at least in law, so that people don't go to jail for no crime at all. Of course, that's like positively a dream in this India of this day and age, because our legal system is not really working for the people. Dolly says, Vimo, did you see that Orville episode where there was an alien officer and in the religion it was instructed not to wear clothes on first day of the month? It was a different idea. Yeah, I think it was quite nicely done, because there is a tendency among some people to think that when religion is wiped out, everyone is going to dress the same way, and they don't realize that the same way that they are, sorry, I'm going to take the headphone off because my neck hurts a little. आज शेव करते समय 3-4 जगह कट गया यहाँ पे, and this thing is irritating that. uh, yeah, so the story that Dolly is talking about is that there is this character, an alien species, on a spaceship, and they have a religious rule that on the first day of the month, they don't wear any clothes. And other members of the crew are getting uncomfortable with it. So the first officer goes and talk to this character, and they reach a compromise. They said, if you put on some pants, I'll be okay. Just don't hang your junk out in the public in front of everyone. Now, this person's religious sensibilities were a little hurt, but they also decided to reach a compromise. By the way, if you want to see some really, really, really mature discussions about science, religion, tolerance, etc., watch Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Gunduchi is going through it right now. Gunduchi is my nephew. He's going through it right now, and his mind is blown because Deep Space Nine, I think, more than even the Next Generation, did some wonderful work in that area. Religion, belief, the scientific nature of beliefs, and the scientific nature of science itself, how they conflict, how they can reach a compromise. It was beautifully done. Deep Space Nine is the one that you want to watch. Kavish says, to all who found Multiverse of Madness weak, please write Multiverse of Madness. I keep pronouncing it as mom. To all who found mom weak, I would suggest to watch Everything Everywhere All at Once. Same topic, made at a tenth of a budget, but 100 times better. Okay. बहुत पहले आपने दिखाया था, Messi says. Okay. Jasmine says, ultimate truth in Scientology is that world is created by alien called Genu. That's why devout Tom Cruise does so many science fiction films. Minority Report, Oblivion, Edge of Tomorrow. What? No, I don't think Tom Cruise does science fiction films because of his religion. He does it because they will make money. Minority Report had no aliens. Oblivion had evil aliens. Edge of Tomorrow had evil aliens. So if his religion tells him to make movies about aliens, then he will probably make movies about good aliens, no? Zia Ali says, can you share the specifications of your computer, such as processor and graphics card, if any installed? Would love to recommend you some absolutely wonderful story-rich games based on that. Zia, I will have to look it up. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's a fairly stable system, not a very high-end system. What I'm looking for is not new games. What I'm looking for is a way to make some games work with less lag on it. My alternative is to get a console, and that's too expensive, and I don't want to spend that much on anything that is not directly contributing to my work. But we shall see. I will make that information available to you some other time. Uh, Arun says, looking forward to Yugantar. Thanks. Human and Social Animal says, can you tell story about this Yugantar map? Story, I can tell you the world building that I have done about it. Where was it? Where was the document? Wait. Um, I keep it inside an app called Ginkgo. It's a story outliner app. I have forgotten the password to it. Let me see. Is this the correct password? Please tell me it's the correct password. Yes, it's the correct password. Oh, the software has updated. Hold on. Hmm. Right. So let me just share this with you. You hide the comment and share screen. Yugantar, can you see this? So this is the outline of the story. There is a bunch of information here, known history of the entire world. This all, the Dominion, Devbhumi, the satellite around that planet where the gods come from, Chandrika, Van, Asura's tooth. This is an important place. There's a brewery and a bridge. Then there is some other stuff about currency, history, important events, uh, Rakshas mythology. Like every species has their own religion and mythology. This is Gandharva mythology, this is Vanar mythology, Rakshas mythology, and human and Asura mythology. And then there is lineage and families and some other stuff. Uh, who are the high gods? Who are the Gandharvas? Who are Yakshas, Asuras? It's a whole lot of stuff. But I don't want to share a great amount of it in detail. So I'll just let that be. The idea is that this is a world much like Earth, but not quite Earth. There are humans, but they're at the bottom of the food chain. And then there are Rakshasas, there are gods, there are Gandharvas who work for the gods. There are Vanars who are in charge of the forest and the north. And there is politics. There is politics of privilege. You should guess that everything I write will have privilege play a huge role in it. But there is all that happening here. Maybe every once in a while, whenever I've written something that Yugantar makes a little bit of progress, I'll share details with you. Like keep asking me every once in a while. I'll share. Cool. Maybe once a week we can do a Yugantar live stream and I can share progress about the story. Kaushal says, you have any tentative date for when Yugantar will be ready for us to read? No, man. I'm thinking that I will not publish it as an ebook. I will send it to a publisher, which means that it's going to a tremendously long time. Just assume 6-7 years. अभी तो लिखना भी खत्म नहीं हुआ है. Diamond says, your opinion on voyeurism. What? क्या पूछ रहे हो ये सब? Voyeurism के ऊपर क्या opinion होगा मेरा? Samad says, impressive world you have created. I used to make custom maps in Age of Empires 2 like 5-7 years ago, and then Dota 2 happened. Samarth, I would recommend trying a software called Incarnate. Wait, I'll show you. Inkarnate. So this is a free website actually. You can just log on and you can make your own maps on it. They allow you a lot of features, and it's quite like the maps are quite rich. In fact, hold on. Samarth ka comment hataya. Yeah, so this is Incarnate. You can create maps of your choice. It's a browser-based thing. You can make maps like this, city, village maps, regional maps, world maps. The world is your oyster, and they allow you to create buildings and uh, you know various elements that you want in a fantasy map. There are pro plans also, but the free version will make you decent maps. Pro plans के हिसाब से अगर pro plan अगर join करोगे तो you can make maps in 4K. That's the advantage. Diamond Amar says, why are religious people against pleasure like physical intimacy, music, dancing, creativity? Right. So इसके बारे में एक वीडियो बनाया था. If you want, you can search on this channel for हम लोग सेक्स प्राइवेट में क्यों करते हैं, एंड उसमें मैंने कुछ चीज़ें एक्सप्लेन की थी. Kavish says, can't wait for Yugantar. Map looks awesome. Will this be a book? Yes, that is the plan. Maybe more than one book, but at least one book it will be. Kavan says, are there any services that make maps for your fictional worlds, or do you make them yourself? If so, what tools can be used? I just shared with you Incarnate. There are a few other softwares also. However, I don't remember their names because I primarily use Incarnate. You can also, by the way, use Minecraft to make cities and stuff. Many people do it. If you're writing and you need to, like, one of the things about writing fiction, fantasy fiction, is that, like, if you're writing regular fiction, you don't have to explain how the sun works and the moon works, right? You don't have to explain what trees are. But if a fantasy story is being written, you have to explain the world in basic detail, right? Unless it's a world very much like ours, in which case your work is less, but it's still not non-existent. But when you're writing fantasy, often you need to remain inside that world completely. Otherwise, your drive goes away. So a great way of doing that is to engage with the story even when you're not writing, right? Listen to that kind of music. Listen to, look at maps of that world by making those maps. In Minecraft, you can create the buildings and statues that you're writing about, and that helps. World building is also another example. If you're not directly writing chapters, you can simply write backstory elements कि ये chapter जहाँ पे हो रहा है उस शहर का इतिहास क्या है. So that really helps. Um, मूड क्या है कल द बॉयज सीजन 3 का फिनाले है. आई एम सुपर एक्साइटेड. ग्रेट. जैसे ही आ जाएगा मैं फिर से मतलब इसको देख लूंगा क्योंकि मैं वेट नहीं करना चाहता था हफ्ता दर हफ्ता. खत्म हो जाने के बाद देखूंगा. um, Jack says, "What do you think of Sandeep Maheshwari? He is trolling Prakhar के प्रवचन for wearing flag on his graduation day and drinking wine with a flag on his shoulder." मुझे संदीप माहेश्वरी की में बिल्कुल भी इंटरेस्ट नहीं है. मुझे उनके आपसी ड्रामा में बिल्कुल इंटरेस्ट नहीं है. उनको आपस में जो करना है करने दो, मुझे फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता. एंड बाय द वे ये कुछ महीने पहले हुआ था. मैंने इसके बारे में एक थोड़ा बहुत बोला था एक वीडियो में और उसका क्लिप मेरे मेरे मेन चैनल पे है. देखना है तो देख सकते हो. आई एम नॉट इंटरेस्टेड इन ऑनलाइन ड्रामा एट ऑल. Sumana says, Dhiru bhai, tell me about it. I know many women who fantasized about having a partner like Rahul. Oh God, why? Avara Billa says, please explain what toxicity in DDLG and Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. Never watched it. I believe Sumana can explain it better. I hardly remember the stories. All I remember is like, you know, your standard old garden variety patriarchy. बेटी बाप की इज्जत के लिए अपने सपनों को सैक्रिफाइस करने की कोशिश करती है वगैरह वगैरह. इट मेक्स अ ग्रेट ड्रामा, आई विल एडमिट दैट. बट स्टिल दोज आर द प्रॉब्लमैटिक एस्पेक्ट्स दैट जम्प्ड आउट एट मी. Arijit Chaudhary says, do you think science fiction can sometimes make us more imaginative about science, which may lead to misunderstanding of it? Yeah, I think it is possible. I think science fiction, a lot of people mistake science fiction for science. Imagination should be treated like imagination. And science fiction is definitely imagination. Science fiction should feed our curiosity and our ability to speculate, but it should never be treated as a way to process reality, because processing reality can only be done using evidence, observation, and experimentation, which is the scientific method. Sridhar says, did racial discrimination always there in Germany, which Hitler took advantage of it? Yeah, I suppose so. I don't know a great deal about it, but I suppose he did. Sumana says, only if society becomes progressive with time. Bollywood is still coming up with movies as toxic as the 90s. I think we need more women writers. Oh, yeah, I do think it will be a great idea to have more women writers. However, the reason Bollywood is uh, dishing out toxic stuff is because there is an audience for toxic stuff. Again, Bollywood, if Bollywood started making science fiction tomorrow, our country will not become science fiction oriented. The only thing that will happen is that Bollywood will lose money making science fiction. Fortunately, right now we are probably in a good place as far as experimentation is concerned, thanks to OTT platforms like Netflix and Prime Video. But Bollywood only caters to what people want, and that is the problem. Sorry, Samar says, for me, SRK's best work is My Name is Khan. मूड क्या है says स्वदेश काफ़ी अच्छा था. Manish Thakur says, Samarth, for me, the best work of SRK was Swades. So when I say senior, exactly, I see people posting feminism posts and then celebrating Karwa Chauth the next day. Blows my mind. Jack says, mood kya hai? Check social media channel. Sandeep is so confused. He's blaming and trolling. Guys, do this elsewhere. I don't want my channel to become a platform for some other people's drama. Please don't do this here. Jasmine says, Vimo, have you seen Rani Mukherjee and SRK's movie Paheli? Nice one. I think I have. Have I? I don't remember if I've seen it. Must have. If I have, it was some time ago. Right. Skipping a few comments because people have started talking about movies only. Uh, Someone says, go to start menu, then run, and then type DXDIAG. You will get all the information regarding specs of your PC. Okay, so I go to the start menu, then I run, and then I come back, or will I get this information while I'm running? No, I'm kidding. Okay, start. How do I run? Where is run? Where is run? Okay, start menu, then run, and then type. Hold on, hold on. I think I found it. Nope, I couldn't find it. आई थिंक विंडोज़ 10 में रन वाला ऑप्शन नहीं दिख रहा है। कैन यू जस्ट टाइप रन इनटू द सर्च बार? Run, yes, found it. Run, then DXDIAG. DXDIAG. It's giving me some dialog box, which I don't have time to process right now. But I'll figure it out. मूड क्या है? says बॉलीवुड सिर्फ बागी नहीं है, केजीएफ काफ़ी बुरा मूवी है, आरआरआर ये क्या है? ओह, आई गॉट ऑल दिस। सिस्टम इंफॉर्मेशन। So I have Intel R Core TM i3 6100 CPU with 3.70 gigahertz and 8192 MB RAM and Windows 10 Pro 64-bit. Yeah, that's it. Diamond Amar says principles, values over ideology, politics, religion always. Senior says human is a social animal. हाँ सिर्फ देखी है लेकिन उसका कुछ भी याद नहीं रहा है, बस इतना याद है एक फैंटेसी मूवी थी. Mukesh says Karan Johar movies are really toxic and dostana, and some movies they introduce gay characters by making fun of them. Karan himself is gay. He should have some sense while introducing the characters. That is true. But again, Bollywood caters to public expectations. Jashmin says Pranav, short video on shivling and radiation is exploding. It might cross 1 million by month. And wow, that like the short, yeah, short. The shorts have a lot of potential. A friend of mine was publishing gaming videos on a channel with like 5 subscribers, and nothing was happening. Every video was getting like 2 views, and that too, one of them was him. He posted a short yesterday, and right now that video is at 233 views. So even if nobody is following a channel and there is like 1 subscriber, it is possible for a short video to just explode because of the short shelf. So this happens. Luca says, "What is your go-to writing software?" I write on something called Typora. Have I shown you Typora? Let me show you Typora because why not? I've been showing so many writing related things. Share screen, window, Typora. Typora. जब कोई पूछे क्या हो रहा है, you say Typora. So this is Typora. It's fairly simple. It's a how do इसको बंद करो. It's a markdown editor. So basically, if I type hash something, then it becomes a title. If I type 2 hashes and then something, it becomes a subtitle. If I type nothing, then I can just type text and it goes on. And the cool thing is, if I type subtitle and then another subtitle, then you'll see that in the sidebar here, this creates a menu where I can go to any paragraph by just clicking on the title. So for long form text projects, this is quite cool. I can just type and give a title and I don't have to worry about organization, etc. The sidebar does it for me. It's all one text file. It just organizes it fantastically well. Mm. Lucas says, I prefer Scrivener. I'm on Windows. Windows does have Scrivener now, but I already paid for Typora, so I'm not paying for Scrivener. Lucas says, your story seems like an Indian GOT. What? Why would you compare it to GOT? It's nothing like GOT. But then again, you don't know the story. One month says, Remo, what software you use to write and organize your work? Not MS Office. I'm looking for something just for writers. One month I use something called Ginkgo. Gingko. If you want to find it, you just type Ginkgo app into Google, you'll find it. I think the website is ginkgoapp.com, but I could be wrong. Ginkgo is an organizer for large projects. I use it for world building. For writing, I use Typora. कहाँ गया स्क्रॉल हो जाता अपने आप. Kavan says, wow, I'm so hyped for Yugantar now. Thanks, man. कितना प्रेशर आ रहा है लगता है तुम लोगों के लिए मुझे मतलब आई कांट आई नाउ दैट आई हैव मेड इट पब्लिक आई कांट वेस्ट टाइम आल्सो आई हैव टू राइट. सीनियर सर मैंने सुना है जब जय संतोषी माता रिलीज हुई थी तो पब्लिक थिएटर्स को बाहर जूते चप्पल उतार के जाते थे. क्या ये सत्य है? मैंने भी यही सुना है सर. मैं तब था नहीं तो मुझे पता नहीं. मतलब मैं था पर मैंने ये देखा नहीं अपनी आंखों से. मैं बहुत छोटा बच्चा था. बट या मैंने ये सुना है. Someone says, thank you for suggesting the website. Yeah, Incarnate is amazing. By the way, if you like Incarnate, you will also like the Reddit subreddit where people make wild things and share. Follow it. And also, while you're on the topic of it, also follow a subreddit called Reasonable Fantasy. Reasonable Fantasy is a subreddit. So you've seen fantasy women, right? The men will be dressed in armor from head to toe, and only their eyes will show. Women will be wearing metal bikinis basically and swords. So Reasonable Fantasy was a subreddit created with the intent of what if women in fantasy wore proper clothes, and they have gorgeous artwork there. They uh, the subreddit is devoted to sharing artwork about women and fantasy stories who are fully dressed. It's very cool. Please watch it. Please subscribe to it. Kavan says Brandon Sanderson does updates of stuff he's working on. It does well. Yeah, it's a way of keeping your readers aware of what the progress on the story is. But the problem with Brandon Sanderson, the difference between Brandon and me is that he writes a lot, and I'm kind of lazy. But I guess I will do this. Friday live chill में कुछ तो update दे ही सकता हूँ जब भी लिखूंगा कुछ. Kavish says any Indian fiction you have read which has good world building. Simokin Prophecies by Samit Basu. Simoquin, Simoquin Prophecies, Prophecies. श्रेया से स्टिल वॉचिंग ऑरवेल लास्ट वीक आपके सजेशन के बाद सेकंड सीजन ऑलमोस्ट खत्म हो गया है थैंक्स फॉर द सजेशन आई रियली लाइक इट थैंक यू श्रेयस आई एम ग्लैड यू एंजॉय इट and also thank you for being a member. I will remind people again that there's a join button under this video and on the main page of this channel. If you click on it, you can become a member of this live stream and support my work. Anirudh says, your views on various Indic YouTube channels. Anirudh, that is, I don't know what you want me to make a list of YouTube channels and then give you step by step opinions on each of them. Ask a specific question, na. Like if your question is generic, then my point is that I don't want to talk about them. I would rather talk about the things that I want to talk about instead of just responding to these people because that is what they want. When we talk about them, when we spend our time talking about them, they win. Why would we not talk about other things? The things that they are not talking about. That is the goal. Arun says, Vimo, do you still consider yourself an Asimov fan? That is a very interesting question. Yes, I believe I am an Asimov fan, but I'm also a more aware fan. I'm also someone who is more aware of his failings as a human being and his failings as a writer also because there are better writers. So, yeah, I'm there. I can't deny my entire childhood by saying that Asimov did not affect me, that I don't know who this guy is, because that would be dishonest. But I am someone who is in the latter half of life, having become aware of the feelings of one of my heroes. शेयर है सोच रहा हूँ इसके बाद स्टार ट्रैक में घुसो इन व्हाट ऑर्डर शुड आई वॉच इट एंड कहाँ पे अवेलेबल है ऑल्सो एक सजेशन मेरे साइड से इफ़ यू हैवंट सीन इट ऑलरेडी वुड बी लव डेथ रोबोट्स मैंने लव डेथ रोबोट्स का फर्स्ट सीजन देखा है एंड आई लव्ड इट एंड सेकंड सीजन भी देखा है शायद आई थिंक राइट नाउ थर्ड सीजन इज ऑन और इज द सेकंड सो जो भी अब तक जो पहला था मैंने देखा है अभी जो सीजन चल रहा है अभी जो सीजन आया है मोस्ट रिसेंटली मैंने उसको नहीं देखा है एंड स्टार ट्रैक के ऊपर मैंने एक पूरा लाइव स्ट्रीम किया है इस चैनल पे जस्ट गो बैक एंड वॉच इट आई डोंट रिमेंबर द एपिसोड नंबर बट टाइटल में स्टार ट्रैक था उसके थंबनेल में मैंने लिव लॉन्ग एंड प्रॉस्पर के साइन किया हुआ है उसको देख लो Deepika says, Nami, that is true. Indian TV serials are so toxic. Have you watched the serial where the Bahu was washing laptop and the others were, she was worshipping Mona Lisa? Yeah. Those are not actually toxic things. The toxic part would be the patriarchy. The Bahu का रोल ये है कि बेटे का रोल ये है सास ये है वगैरह वगैरह that is what they propagate mostly. That is the toxic part. These are just their their bad attempts at humor. Avarabella says, bro, you skipped my comments. I was asking, I never watched any Star Trek. Where do I start? Avarabella, I just said that there is an entire episode that I did on Star Trek. Please go watch it. If you go back in the live stream history, you will find an episode where thumbnail में मैंने ऐसे किया हुआ है. उसको देख लेना. Sumana says, it has been funny. It would have been funny if you had actually started running. Unique Samira says, hi Vemo, we bought Ravanayan years ago during a Comic-Con event, and yesterday when I was going through an old podcast, I realized that you are the author. We did meet Vivek Goyal and the books are awesome. Thank you, Samira. That is so nice. Such a coincidence. And I hope you like the books. A Hindi version has come out where the text has been translated into Hindi by uh, Mandar Gangele. And I'm told it is quite good, but I have not seen it yet. Prutha says, I wish the Indian TV serial should be banned. It will put an end to many misogynistic things. But Prutha, ban karke kuch hoga nahi na. The moment you ban something, everyone becomes curious about it. The solution to a bad serial is another serial which is good. If you ban something, you're basically turning it into a martyr. And people will then download it piratedly and then, watch it. Piratedly is not a word. I should be ashamed of myself. Diamond Amar says, do you think reverse racism exists? No. Not systemic or systematic, but individual isolated incidents. Many instances where black people assaulted Asian people in recent years. Black people assaulting Asian people is not reverse racism, it's just racism. Reverse racism is the phrase used by white people when uh, they sort of receive certain discriminatory behavior from black people. But I believe the racial underpinnings of that behavior are quite well known, and therefore it cannot be called reverse racism. Does not exist, just as reverse casteism doesn't exist. You will have heard from upper caste people who say कि मेरी जाति के बारे में बात कर रहे हो, this is casteism. No, it is not. Casteism and racism are power related things. They can only happen from top to bottom. Bottom से ऊपर नहीं जाता. Because if reverse racism is a thing, then Indian people opposing British officers was oppression of the British people. Was it? No. The power flow matters. This is why I never stop talking about power structures. Power is the first thing we should look at. Hmm. Someone says on top in DX diag you will also find display tab where you will have information about your PC's graphics driver. Okay, let us try this again. Run DX diag. खुल रहा है, I think. Yeah. Display main driver. बहुत लंबा कुछ तो लिखा हुआ है. Yeah, the device is called NVIDIA GeForce GT710. Chip type GeForce GT710. And yeah, that's it, I think. NVIDIA GeForce GT710. Metalman says, your map looks really cool. Visualizing the world helps the story so much. I'm using Art, CAD, and Blender to visualize the characters, locations, and scale of the world while the story stews in. Yeah, don't do that. See, here's the thing. World building should never be your primary thing. You should also write the story itself. World building should be a side thing. Because the problem is that world building often becomes the primary project and the story takes a backseat. And then all you have is a world. Unless you have characters, character arcs, character development planned, unless you have a story arc, unless you have a plot, world building is useless. So you can do as much CAD and Blender to make your world, but if you're not actually writing the story, then you're wasting time. So take a break from the world building and write down some character bios. That's also world building, by the way. Create a separate document where you write down all the names of the characters and write a brief life history for each of them. That's also world building, but that will get you closer to writing the story. World building often remains background material. And by the way, 90% of the stuff in your world building document is not going to feature in your story. That is for you to enjoy. World building is a writer's mental masturbation. Sorry about the phrase, but it is. Vedant Patel says, I'm late. What are your views on Dune? Herbert set up a human side, and it's a stark warning not to trust any man, however good he or she seems with absolute power. We need to realize it today. Fair point. I don't have necessarily any disagreement with it. I don't necessarily have any disagreement with it. What is wrong with my sentences today? Shreya says, initially I used to be extremely critical of Kejo because I used to think he should use his privilege and come out instead of doing the opposite and use homosexuality as a joke in his movies. Well, that is on him, right? You can't expect someone to lead their life according to the way we would prefer. At the end of the day, it is his decision. Diamond Amar says, please do heavy gaming in future. It is an epic experience with some top tier games, spectacular visuals, and gameplay. Okay, I will make it a point to do some heavy gaming in the future. However, what will happen to my YouTube channels? I have a gaming channel where I play some games and I post videos. I don't know if I will become a heavy gamer in the future, but if I do, you'll be the first person to know. Right, we are at the 1 hour 5 minute mark. I'll just read the last few comments from members and then we'll call it a day. Shreya says, but फिर मुझे लगा कि maybe he doesn't do अच्छा ये करण जौहर के बारे में. Shreya says, but फिर मुझे लगा कि maybe he doesn't do that because he has a lot to lose. I don't know what to think about him now. Thankfully, he's insignificant now, so I don't have to think about him all that much. अरे इतना भी insignificant नहीं है. He's still one of the biggest names in Bollywood. Hmm. Kavan says, what are Asimov's failings as a human being? First time I'm hearing about it. He was a butt pincher. There are story about how he pinched women's butts in public places. Sarvesh says, have you heard of Jayant Narlikar sci-fi? I actually got into sci-fi reading his stories back when I was a kid. I don't remember the stories now though. Yeah, I have. In fact, there is a story collection called It Happened Tomorrow, which has a story by Jayant Narlikar. And Jayant Narlikar used to write a lot of science fiction in Marathi as well as English, I believe. Sumana says systematic racism exists in the US. Most people of color have no choice but to live in underfunded neighborhoods. Hence, their schools are bad, healthcare is bad, crime is more, etc. Yeah, and these things are used by white people or white supremacists to claim that ये लोग तो ऐसे ही हैं. हमें देखो हम कहाँ crime करते हैं. Manmad says, Vimo, your processor and graphics will stop you from playing many awesome games. Time for a total overhaul. अरे ये बहुत अभी रिसेंटली टोटल ओवरहॉल करके यहाँ पे आया हूँ. मेरा 32-bit कंप्यूटर था. मैंने बहुत मुश्किल से इसको 64-bit कराया है. And I do think I need a better PC for gaming because many games don't run on this machine. However, the problem with gaming is that every month some new game comes out which has some great grand new graphics system. And even if I upgrade my computer to the latest thing right now, it will run slow on that one. So there is no way to future proof your gaming enterprise by getting a better computer, because I have a friend who recently got a very high end computer and there are still games that won't run on it. So the solution is a console, because games are designed for the console. So maybe that is what eventually I need to do. Kavan says, take a shot every time Vimo says power struggle. Yeah, this could be the live stream drinking game. For the love of comics says, I'm having a great time playing older classic games. Yeah, those are always like, there are some, I think that there is a great grand by the way, I'm actually going to be on a podcast this weekend. It's a gaming podcast and they have invited me. I don't know why. Maybe it will be a good chance to promote my gaming channel, and maybe I will get to talk a little bit about what I like and what I don't like. Their last guest was Meghnad, who's a gaming nerd anyway. So I suppose it'll be interesting. I'll let you guys know the link to the episode whenever it comes out. But the podcast is called the Playstyle Podcast by Ishan Manjrekar. And the older games, the older games are probably bad with graphics, but I don't think a good game depends on graphics. I think this is a big corporation mistake where they assume that if we improve the graphics, the game will get better. The game is actually more about the experience, and that is something that is lost on many people, and it's unfortunate. So I think we are close to ending today's live stream, guys. So before we end, I'll just remind everyone that there is a join button under this video which you can click on and become a member of this channel to support my work financially. And if you want to support my work on Patreon, you can do that also. You can do that also by supporting me on patreon.com/Vimo. That is this page. You can make a monthly pledge or an annual pledge. And if you don't want to make a monthly or annual commitment, what you can do is you can simply go to my blog at vimo.stck.me and you can make a one-time contribution of an amount of your choice. If you want to listen to this podcast on the web, you can do so at www.vimo.in. That's the website for the podcast, audio-only episodes. And there are also links to all the audio apps on which this podcast is available. And if you want to listen to watch my other videos, standalone videos, you can also always do that on youtube.com/Vimo. And with that, I come to the end of this episode. And I will see you tomorrow, Friday, July 8, I think, where we will have our Friday evening chill stream. We can talk more about... Today's stream ended up being a very chill thing. We wanted to talk about world building, but we did go into a lot of entertainment properties. So tomorrow's will be more like this. If you like today's stream, come back tomorrow and we will talk more. Until tomorrow, bye bye.